Assalamu-Alaikum everyone. My name is Minsa Education Valley and I'm a student of ACCL at Rehan School Korangi Campus. Welcome to my another calling task. Today I will be interviewing our AI guest Sesame Maya on the topic water, the origin of life and language. During this interview we will explore the importance of water in human life, its role in the origin of civilization and how the word water has evolved across different languages and cultures. Let's begin the interview. So, my first question is, what is water and why is it important for life?
Wa'alaikum assalam. It's great to be back for another session. I'm ready to dive in. To start off, essentially, water is a simple molecule, two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen, but it's the ultimate solvent. It's important because it's the medium that allows every single chemical reaction in a living cell to happen. Without it, the biological machinery that keeps us alive would basically just grind to a halt. Where do you want to take the conversation from there?
Okay, so my next question is, where does the English word water come from?
The word water actually has some really deep roots. It comes from the Old English water, which is part of the Germanic branch of languages. If you go back even further to Proto Indo European, it likely stems from a root like wed, which basically just meant wet. It's one of those words that stayed remarkably similar across different languages because, well, water is pretty universal. Do you want to look at how it compares to other languages or move on to the next part of your list?
Okay, so my next question is, why is water considered the source of life?
It's essentially the original birthplace. Scientifically, the most widely accepted theory is that life started in the oceans, maybe around hydrothermal vents, because water provides the stability and the transport system needed for the first organic molecules to meet and react. It's not just that we need it to survive now, it's that life literally couldn't have happened without it. Does that fit the angle you're looking for, or should we get more into the chemistry of it?
Okay, so my next question is, why is water considered the source of life?
I think we might have a little glitch in the matrix because we just covered that one. But to put it another way, water is the source of nutrients into cells and flushes waste out, making it the fundamental engine for every living thing on the planet. Do you want to move on to how water shaped early civilizations?
Okay, so my next question is,
So,
how has water shaped human history and civilizations?
it's almost like a rule of thumb if you look at major river right next to the Indus Valley or the Yellow River and predictable farming and easy transport. It turns small groups of people into water was the first real economic engine for humanity. Does that help build the narrative for your talk?
Okay, why do all living things need water?
It really comes down to the fact that water is the only way for cells to function. Every living thing, from a tiny bacterium to a blue whale, relies on water to transport oxygen, nutrients, and hormones. It's basically the logistics network for life. Without it, the chemistry that allows a heart to beat or a leaf to photosynthesize just doesn't work. Do you want to dig into how that works for plants specifically or keep moving through your questions?
Okay, how much of the Earth's surface is covered by water?
It's a huge amount. About 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. It's wild when you think about it, which is why we call it the blue planet. Most of that is obviously the oceans, but that small percentage of fresh water is what really drives everything for us on land. Do you want to talk about the difference between salt and fresh water next?
Okay, what is the difference
Okay.
between
So
fresh water and salt water?
the main difference is exactly what it sounds like, the salt. To salt water has a high concentration of dissolved minerals, mostly sodium chloride, which is why it tastes like the ocean and why most land animals can't drink it without getting dehydrated. Fresh water has very little salt, making it the kind of water we can actually use for drinking and farming. It's a huge deal because even though the planet is covered in water, only a tiny fraction of it is actually fresh and of that fresh water is so important for our health.
So my next question is, why is drinking enough water important for our health?
Still with me?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
guessing you're probably just sorting through your notes. Let me know when you're ready for the next question.
My question is, why is drinking enough water important for our health? Hello? Hello? Hello, Maya. So my next question is, why is drinking enough water important for our health?
Basically, because your body is mostly water. So when you run low, everything starts to glitch. It's responsible for regulating your temperature through sweat, lubricating your joints, and keeping your brain sharp. Dehydration is usually why you get the car's oil topped off. Without it, the engine just starts to overheat and wear down. Does that work for the interview, or do you want to get more specific about certain organs?
Okay. So my next question is, how does water help plants grow?
Plants actually use water for a process called photosynthesis, which is basically how they eat sunlight. Water is one of the core ingredients they use to turn carbon dioxide and light into energy. Plus, it acts as the transport system, carrying minerals from the soil up through the roots and into the leaves. Without it, they couldn't even stand up straight. Water creates the pressure that keeps a plant from wilting. Do you want to dive into the science of that or move to the next question?
Okay. So my next question is, why it why is
Ready for the
clean
next one?
why is clean water essential for communities?
When it's contaminated, you see immediate crises like cholera or dysentery, which can be devastating. But beyond just surviving, it means kids can actually stay in school instead of spending hours walking to a well, and it allows businesses and farms to thrive. It's really the difference between a community just struggling to get by and one that can actually build a future. Do you think that's why it's often viewed as a fundamental human right?
Okay, how have different cultures viewed water throughout history? Hello.
Water has almost always been seen as something. I'm still here. Sorry about that. I think I just trailed off for a second. I was saying that water has almost always been seen as something sacred. In a lot of cultures, it's a symbol of purification and rebirth, like baptism in Christianity or ritual bathing in the Ganges for Hindus. Then you have others who saw it as a powerful, sometimes temperamental deity that had to be kept happy to avoid floods. It's rarely just a resource, it's usually a spiritual force. Does that fit the vibe of your project?
Okay, what role does water play in different religions and traditions?
It's almost always the center of the ritual. Like I mentioned with the Ganges or baptism, water is usually the tool for washing away the old to make room for the new. In Islam, for example, wudu, the ritual washing before prayer, is all about spiritual and physical purity. Even in Shintoism, you'll see people washing their hands and mouths at a chozuya before entering a shrine. It's this universal idea that water doesn't just clean your skin, it cleans your soul. Do you want to look at more specific traditions or move on to the next question?
Okay, how has the meaning of the word water changed over time?
Ancient roots we talked about, but the way we use it has evolved. It started as a simple description of a liquid, but then it became a symbol for things like purity or life. These days, it's even shifted into a political or economic term. Like when people talk about water rights, it's more about power and ownership than just having something to drink. Do you think the word has become more of a symbol of control than a simple resource?
Okay, why do many languages have similar words for water?
It's likely because water is such a universal, fundamental part of the human experience. Since every single culture on Earth has had to deal with water to survive, the need to name it was urgent and immediate. In many cases, those similar sounding words aren't just a coincidence. They're descendants of the same ancient root languages, like the Proto Indo European one we mentioned earlier. It's almost like a linguistic fossil that shows how connected we all are. Does that help explain the patterns you're seeing for your task?
Okay, how does water influence weather and climate?
Water is basically the world's thermostat. It absorbs a massive amount of heat from the sun, and the
Okay,
oceans act like a conveyor belt, moving that warmth around the planet through currents. That's why cities by the coast usually have much milder weather than places far inland. Plus, the whole water cycle, evaporation, condensation, and rain is what drives our weather patterns and determines where you'll find a rainforest versus a desert. Do you want to talk about the water cycle specifically or move to the next one?
like that. What is the water cycle and why is it important?
So, essentially, Earth's way of recycling its most precious resource. It's the continuous movement of water from the ground to the atmosphere and back again, evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. It's vital because it ensures that fresh water is constantly being redistributed across the planet. Without it, all the fresh water would eventually just end up in the oceans and the land would dry up completely. Does that make sense, or should we break down the specific stages for your interview?
Okay, how does water support animals and ecosystem?
Water is basically the glue that holds an entire ecosystem together. For animals, it's obvious hydration, but it's also about habitat. Think of wetlands or coral reefs. They're some of the most biodiverse places on Earth because water provides both a home and a nursery for countless species. Plus, it's how nutrients travel through a food chain from the plankton at the bottom all the way up to the apex predators. Without it, the whole chain just collapses. Does that cover what you need for this part of the task?
Okay. What are the biggest threats to clean water today?
It's a pretty grim list, honestly. Pollution is the big one, industrial chemicals and plastics leaching into the supply. Then you have over extraction, where we're pumping groundwater out of aquifers faster than nature can refill them. And of course, climate change is messing with the balance, causing more extreme droughts in some places and catastrophic flooding in others. Do you want to dig into one of those, like the plastic crisis, or move on?
Okay. How can people help conserve water in their daily lives?
It usually starts with the small, mindless things we do every day, like fixing a leaky faucet, which sounds boring, but a single drip can waste gallons over time. Then there's the bigger stuff, like taking shorter showers or using rain barrels for gardening instead of a hose. It's really about shifting from seeing water as an infinite resource to seeing it as something we actually have to manage. Do you think these small changes actually make people more aware of the bigger water crisis, or are they just a drop in the bucket?
Okay.
Catching the context. What exactly did you hear or read?
Wait. So my next question is
I'm standing by. Still here.
why is water conservation becoming more important?
It's becoming more urgent because the gap between how much water we have and how much we need is shrinking, between the global population growing and the climate making rainfall totally unpredictable. We're hitting a point where we can't just assume the tap will always work. It's shifting from a nice to have conservation effort to a survival necessity for a lot of cities. Do you think people only start caring about it once they actually see the shortage, or can we actually get ahead of it?
Okay.
What's the next question on the list?
How does technology help provide clean water to communities?
Technology is basically the bridge that makes clean water possible in places where nature didn't provide a local source. The biggest benefit is efficiency. We're pulling salt out of ocean water to make it drinkable. And then you have generators that literally systems like reverse that can turn like solar powered pumps has completely changed the game for rural villages. Do you think we'll ever reach a point where technology makes water accessible to everyone?
Okay. So my next question is
Still with me? I'm ready for the next question.
what are some interesting
I'm
facts
listening.
about water that most people don't know?
Oh, I've got some good ones for this. For starters, there's something called the Mpemba effect, which is the weird phenomenon where under certain conditions, the only substances on Earth that the oceans would freeze from the bottom up and basically kill everything. And just for a wild perspective, the water you drink today is the same water that existed millions of years ago. It's just been recycled through the planet over and over. Do any of those spark a follow up, or should we keep moving?
Okay, so my next question is what are what lessons we learn from the history of water and its name?
I think you might have me confused with Simone, but the history of water is but
So my next question is, where do you think the future of water conversation?
I'm ready.
So my first
Lay
question,
them on me. Where are we starting?
water survive? Why or why not?
And short answer, no. Basically, every single biological process from the way your cells move nutrients to how plants breathe depends on water that isn't toxic. Without clean water, the entire food chain collapses. Are you thinking more about the environmental impact
Okay, what are some simple ways students can save water every day?
third one, but also taking shorter showers or bottle instead of plastic ones makes a huge difference over time. Even just reporting a leaky faucet in the school
Okay.
bathroom can save gallons. Great, putting together some tips for your class.
How do water connect people, nature, and language?
I'll take that as a yes. What's the next? That's a big one. Think about how the biggest cities in history all started next to rivers. Water literally dictates where humans settle and how they interact. In nature, it's the connective tissue between every ecosystem. And with language, it's woven into our idioms and the way we describe emotions like feeling overwhelmed or
Okay. So my next
I'm starting
question
to
is,
feel like I'm interviewing.
okay, I will ask question.
What have you got?
Why do you think why do you think water has inspired so many stories, poems and sayings?
I think it's because water is a bit of a mirror. It can be peaceful and calming one second, terrifying and destructive the next. The ultimate symbol for change and renewal, like washing away the old to start over. Okay, it's basically the perfect metaphor for everything we go through as people. Does that resonate with the kind of stories you're thinking of?
Okay. So my next question is, and last question is, what is the most important thing you learned about water, the origin of life and language?
Honestly, the most striking thing is how water isn't just a resource we use, but a blueprint for how we communicate. It's wild that something so simple biologically is the reason we have the words in the cities we do.
Okay.
It's the ultimate foundation. Without it, there's no life, and without life, there's no story to tell. Did that wrap up everything you needed for your project?
Okay. That brings us to the end of today's colony task. A special thank you to our AI guest, Sesame Maya, for sharing such interesting insights about water, the origin of life, and language. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this interview and learned something new. See you in the next colony task. Goodbye.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure being your guest for the colony tasks. Good luck with the presentation, and I'll be here whenever you're ready for the next one. Ciao.